Welcome back to the show this morning. It is, of course, Super Tuesday, as everybody gets ready to go to the polls, vote for their favorite Democratic candidate, and they're all dropping like flies at the moment. Buttigieg is out, Steyer's out. Man, Beto O'Rourke, flash in the pan. Mm-hmm. He came and went like a thief in the night. Just missed him entirely. So,
like a congressman from El Paso.
So yeah, that was an interesting kind of campaign. He actually had traction for about 12 minutes, and then it just went away. But it's interesting to watch because this all very much reminds me of the Republican primaries when Trump was running for president, right? You remember the fact we had like 19 candidates, and we had to break up the Republican debates into the winners versus the laggards, and it was like, okay, y'all six over here, you're going to be on your own different kind of night because nobody really likes you anyway. So we're just going to give you, but we have to give you airtime. That's the law, yeah. Right? So we're just going to stick you over here. Y'all can talk about what you want. And then we'll have the leaders, and
the real candidates,
kind of in their own bag. Remember, we had Bush, we had Trump, we had just a whole litany of people.
A freaking clown car.
Well, that's and what I'm saying is that very much reminds me of kind of, it's interesting in how just one cycle it completely flipped, and
history
now
repeating itself.
Yeah, and now the Democrats are got all these candidates, and we're finally getting down to the two clowns that will. How did you wind up with these two guys? That's all I want to know.
It's the Muppet Puppets.
If you look at, for instance, Bernie Sanders' platform, right, as an example, right? So what is his agenda? His agenda is he wants to break up all the major banks. Now, I will tell you, out of all of his platform, I'm actually okay with that one, right? But he wants to break up all the major banks. That has a huge economic impact. Right, the financial system is comprised of basically 5 major banks. So trying to break those guys up will cause financial turmoil to a major degree because of all the different aspects of how these banks are now integrated into the financial system. Again, I'm not totally opposed to it because these are also criminal enterprises for the most part, and should be broken up. But again, there's a lot of risk to the financial system in trying to do that. Also wants to basically ban all fracking, all federal permits for drilling for oil, which pretty much kills the Houston economy. So, I know we have The issue is that Houston is, of course, Democratic for the most part, and they tend to vote blue. But just be careful who you're voting for because, again, what you vote for is what you're going to wind up getting. And this is a guy that wants to get rid of all fracking, all federal permits for drilling, and wants basically all utilities to be 100% renewable by 2030. This is a huge transformation to the economy. So how are you going to pay? Oh, by the way, no private insurance. Everything will be paid for by the federal government, right? So you won't have any. And this is why healthcare stocks have been selling off, right? Because of this whole idea. But, the question becomes down is great. Okay, great. You want to do these things. That's an awesome thing, right? We want to give people free everything. Right, free health care. We're going to be 100% renewable. We're all going to be green. All hugging trees. It's awesome. But there's a cost to that outcome, and it's not just a cost of what you spend today. There's also a long-term economic cost that is not beneficial. And and this is the problem. This is why you've got to kind of sort through. And again, let's be realistic here for one thing too. Is that just because Bernie Sanders is elected president, if that would actually even happen, the odds of him being able to pass any of these bills are very small. Why? Because he doesn't do anything really. I mean, in terms of that, I mean, he can promote his ideas all day long, but at the end of the day, you've got to get senators and congressmen to pass those bills. Right? we're going to ban all fracking and federal drilling in the United States. Okay. How many of your congressmen are bought and paid for by energy companies? Right? That's not a bad thing. That's just the way there was an old joke a while back that our congressmen and senators should have to be like race car drivers and wear jackets with sponsors all over them. Because look, it's the lobbies. We all know this is not anything new. It's not a conspiracy theory. It's just, we understand how, corporations work, right? They have lobbies, they have PACs, they have all this different stuff that they lobby their senators and congressmen to pass laws and pass bills and pass laws, et cetera, that potentially benefit them in some way or the other. That's just the way our government works. I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying, I have a problem personally with the amount of corporate intrusion that we have into our lawmaking process. The federal government is supposed to be there to be a representative of the people, not representative of corporations. But that's the way our system works. And so just because you elect Bernie Sanders president, the lobbies, the pensions, the unions, all these groups, right? And very well-funded groups, mind you, that have a vested interest in some aspect of our economy are going to lobby very hard to make sure that those laws don't get passed and those things don't occur. So I'm not saying he won't get some of his agenda done, but the financial industry, Wall Street, has a huge lobby in Washington. So I guarantee you that the idea of breaking up the major banks will never pass. It'll never go anywhere. So, yes, there's some things that he'll be able to do simply as president by, stroking a pen through executive order. But a lot of the things that he wants to do will likely not come to pass. So again, the platforms are great. You can say whatever you want when you're running for president to try to get votes because that's what they do. When they're in office, that's a totally different thing. Totally different things, totally different outcomes about what's going on. And look, this is every president, right? I mean, Donald Trump, when he was running for office, it's a big, fat, ugly bubble. Yellen's created this big, fat, ugly bubble, and we get in office, it's like, hey, stock market's up, great, awesome. We need lower rates and more bubble. So, what you say and what you do to get elected, two very different things. And that's just the way politics works. You always have to kind of understand that. But it is interesting when you take a look at the platform that the Democrats are running on, and we've talked about this, kind of before, which is simply that we're running on this idea that if we just give people free stuff, that this is going to create a stronger economy, right? If we make everything equal and fair, we'll have a stronger economy. And there's absolutely no historical evidence anywhere in the world that actually works to any great degree. And don't throw out a country like Norway. They got like 6 million people in their country, right? You've got a population of 330 million people in America, and in large societies, socialism doesn't create equality. It actually creates a bigger wealth gap than we have currently. And see, this is the big problem that we have right now, right? The big issue right now currently is that we've got this wealth gap, right? We've got these people at the top that are super wealthy, and then you got everybody else. 10, the entire stock market's owned by roughly 10% of the population. Everybody else is just struggling to make ends meet. Socialism doesn't fix that problem. It actually exacerbates the problem. It makes it shrinks your middle class. It also does shrink your upper wealthy class. They become fewer but far wealthier, and you have a much bigger lower class. Because socialism is a wealth transfer process. It moves wealth from the poor to the wealthy. That's how socialism works, because there's a few providers that are providing the goods and services that everybody else gets, right? Because regardless of whether it's free for you, somebody has to produce it and somebody's getting paid for it. And the wealthy tend to corner those markets in a socialist society. Somebody makes money, right? It's just not you in a socialist environment. So when you start moving towards this idea of socialism, it sounds great on the surface. And if you're young, you've been taught this in school, oh, capitalism's broken. Capitalism isn't broken. If you get into an Uber or you get into a Lyft or you go on to Robinhood app or you use Grubhub or anything, that's capitalism at work. These are people that have started a company They've built it up. They've tapped into Wall Street. They've tapped into the ability to make money. That's capitalism. In a socialist society, you don't have that opportunity. So just because you want something for free doesn't mean that it's actually free. Sometimes free actually costs you more down the road. And what you really want is a fair opportunity within a capitalist society to make your way and to make your mark and to grow and build something. That's why capitalism works, is when you have that opportunity to start with nothing more than an idea, take a risk, and build something great out of it. If you throw that away because you just want something paid for free, it doesn't really benefit you long term, because the economy won't grow at a rate to provide you the ability to build real wealth over time. All right, quick break. We'll be right back.
Real Investment Show podcasts are now available on iTunes.
Listen anyplace, anytime
at iTunes.com.